Hello, welcome to Microsoft Build Day 3 Weavy Virtual Booth. I am your once and future host, Andy, on this thirdest of days. A lot of exciting stuff so far. I'm going to jump into a quick recap of some of the updates that we've got. I'm going to bring in all my booth buddies. We've got... from the top, we got Sean, we got Joseph, then going clockwise. Um, you know, my ride or die, been here, I think, more than anybody else, Alan, and then me. Welcome, guys.
Good to be back.
You guys been having a good conference?
For sure.
Yeah, it's been good so
And,
far. I had a lot of interesting
yeah.
conversations, talked a lot about Weavy, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I was kind of reading up on some of the big updates that Microsoft has. A lot of their stuff has been really collaboration centric, which is as a white label collaboration API and SDK, warms my heart to see that Microsoft also takes this very seriously. Though I have to say, as somebody who's a big old nerd, I think the most exciting update for me personally is that Windows now can natively run Linux GUI apps, which means that if I'm developing something for Linux, or there's just a tool that I really want to use, as is often the case, I don't have to worry about having a dual boot system anymore. I can just run it from Windows, which is really exciting.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. And of course, there's a new update to Terminal, which if we had Dave on, I think he'd be pretty hyped for one of the preview mode of Terminal that they just announced that in addition can run a Linux command line as well as a Windows command line. You can now have a single button pressed to bring up Terminal from anywhere within Windows, which is pretty exciting stuff. And then for the 5 people who use Microsoft Edge, that works too. They did some updates to that. I know Vard, who is not on the stream right now, actually is a big fan of the Chromium-based Microsoft Edge. And for the old men out there, the old men, women, and everyone in between, pour one out for Internet Explorer, which is dead now. It has been replaced by the Chromium-based Edge. Gone, certainly not forgotten. Where were you when you found out that Internet Explorer died? So yeah, that was a quick recap of some of the news. I'm going to bring some more updates later in the day. Specifically, going to talk about some of the big updates they've made to Microsoft Teams, which is the collaboration-focused thing. Really quick, wanted to get your guys' read on, we've been talking about Build a lot. Let's talk about what are we going to do after Build. It's been a fun conference, but we've got a big 3-day weekend coming up in the States. Happy Memorial Day for those of you stateside, and a convivial Monday of no import to everybody else. So let's just go around the horn. Anybody got some exciting plans for their post-build life?
Yeah, so I'll start off. I'm actually flying out to Cabo tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting for me. First time there, so planning to, just relax by the pool, maybe do some outdoor activities, snorkeling and things like that. And then fly back Monday, and then get right back into it on Tuesday. So much needed vacation for me.
Right on.
Yeah, speaking of outdoor activities, I'm not going to Cabo, but I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the golf course this weekend. Haven't been golfing a lot, and the weather seems to be nice this week, so I think it's a good opportunity just to get out and get some fresh air. So that's my plans for the weekend.
Oh, nice. I know nothing about golf, but I will ask you the one question I know to ask, which is, what's your handicap?
Ooh, my handicap is currently a 13.4
I'm
for those
gonna
of you
I'm gonna
who
assume that's
understand.
good. I have no idea.
I think anything under 20 is decent.
Okay, there you go.
It just depends on, if you what you think is good or not. But I think it's pretty decent.
There we are.
Awesome.
Um,
Well, I had plans to I had plans to move this weekend, but I don't really want to do it on Memorial Day. I do live in San Clemente, and I'm right by the beach, so I'm definitely going to do some sunshine, for Memorial Day. I'll time it right so I can avoid the big crowds and just enjoy it.
well,
And that's about it.
I'm gonna try to take a well-deserved nap. I actually
Nice.
tomorrow, a lot of the work, the post-build work, begins for me. We got a lot of really great contacts at this conference, a lot of really interested people, and I want to make sure that we keep those conversations going because you guys reached out to us and we want to reach out back. Though on Saturday, I'm gonna go out to see some of my pod friends. We're all fully vaxxed now, but we had maintained a tight pod throughout the quarantine. We're just gonna smoke some meat. Last year, we built a meat smoker out of some pots, some like terracotta pots and hot plate, and then this year we decided to go ahead and just buy a real actual one. So a little bit less by the seat of our pants, but much more reliable results. Yeah.
Have a lot of things going on this weekend, so excited, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Oh, yep. Now just, take in the sights and sounds of build day 3. I think things, it was really heartening to see that like really some of the most substantial updates we got this year from Microsoft really were about collaboration and specifically Microsoft Teams, which makes sense. The last year has really changed the way a lot of people work. Less so for some of us in the Weavy team who've been in a hybrid work model. Basically, I mean, I have been since the start, and I've been working remote prior, and um, obviously we've always been distributed. We've had one half of the team out in Malmo, Sweden, and one half of the team out in Los Angeles. But some of the bigger updates for teams are really focused on trying to make collaboration easier, trying to make things smoother in general. They've added app support within Teams so that you can make apps for Teams, which I think is actually a really exciting development. Um, and I'm curious to see what folks on our team can do with that if we so choose. Um, yeah, it's. I was wondering, was anyone else expecting there to be so much focus on hybrid work and sort of future of work? I think I was taken more by surprise about it than maybe I should have been. But
Um, I'm not surprised. I think a emphasis on collaboration, team collaboration, communication has been coming. Especially due to remote work becoming, the norm due to COVID. You're hearing a lot of news, even Slack being acquired by Salesforce. Contextual communication just becoming such a huge emphasis since there isn't as much, in-person meetings. So not surprised. I'm glad this is being talked about. I think this is a very important aspect of day-to-day business, but it's kind of been overlooked just because remote work has never been so apparent, like needed. So yeah, not surprised. Glad we're talking about where it's headed.
Funny you say that because I'm actually the opposite. caught me really off guard. Even working from home, when I first started at Weavy, we were working in the office, and working from home never came to the back of my mind at one bit. And then the pandemic came, and then we went to the hybrid mode, and now fully remote. And so, what a time for a collaboration to be really prominent, right, in the workspace and just in general. I feel like so. Yeah, it caught me off guard. I'm getting used to it. Still getting used to it, but I'm kind of liking it. But yeah, just kind of
If
that's
if
one of
and
my
when our LA
surprise.
office reopens, is that something you would plan to rejoin?
I would definitely. I'm more of an office
Oh yeah,
person. Me personally, I like going to the office. I like the drive to the office. I like waking up early and getting ready. So there are some challenges. It's a challenge waking up early sometimes and the drive time. But now working from home, you can get out of bed and then go to work within a couple seconds.
sure,
So there's pros and cons to working from home and not. But me personally, I'm more of an in person or in office person.
sure, absolutely. Yeah, Sean, you joined our team like I did during the in the height of the global pandemic. Uh, Prior, would you have considered yourself more of a work from home or more of an in office person?
Um, I would have, I would think I would have considered myself an in-office person. I prior to coming to Weedy, I worked in manufacturing and it was a mix. I worked in the office and the production shop, and as the go-between, the liaison. But the point of that was all of my work was definitely on premises. And when I got furloughed, when COVID happened, that was when I was suddenly shaken awake. Like we didn't really that business did not really have a way to make my work remote. And as much as I don't miss commuting or doing the daily drive. I didn't like not having work, which is why I personally shifted my whole, like, started a new career. I was like, I need to get into tech. I'd always been interested in tech, that's how I found my way to Weavy. And Weavy presented itself as a tech solution to the need for remote work flexibility. It just seemed ideal. It's like, oh, this is perfect. This is a thing that would have helped um, all kinds of industries to not leave someone out in the cold when something all like that happened all of a sudden. I think that was the thing. I was taken pandemic proof, right?
Mhm.
And even though, like, Alan he likes showing up at the office, and I get that. Sometimes I do too. I like that, I want to have a coffee with my buddies at work before we get dialed in, right? But at the same time, I don't always want to drive through Orange County or Los Angeles traffic to get there.
Yeah.
And so to have the freedom for the team to be able to operate under both kinds of in a hybrid way, I think is ideal.
Yeah. So as somebody who has lived in Los Angeles for the last decade, and prior to that, well, lived and worked in New York, uh, I've always been much more of a work from home person personally. Um, Part of that is that I have lived with a person with disabilities, and so having the flexibility to be able to work from home, on days when they are not able to do certain things on their own, because of mobility issues has been really important for me, and has traditionally been a stumbling block when I worked in an office environment, because actually, despite the tools kind of being at my disposal to work fairly effectively from home, a lot of places that have a traditional office culture kind of didn't know how to deal with somebody who spent a lot of time at home. So I actually, prior to Weavy, I would say in the 5 years before I joined Weavy, 4 of those I was working fully remote. So this was not much of an adjustment for me. I had really built those routines up. I did not miss commuting. I think the only thing when I started that journey was the structure that it provided. There was a really clean separation of this is where I work, this is where I don't work, But I think so many people in the last year, kind of found ways to build that structure for myself, and also allowed myself the freedom to I think when you're in an office, because you're at the office, there's a sort of flexibility of knowing you know what, I've been at my desk all day. I'm gonna get up and go get a coffee or get a snack or do whatever that. Whereas at home, I think there's this mindset of well, I'm at home, so I really need to be as productive as possible, and you don't allow yourself an office, which is absolutely backwards. So one of the big revelations for me was getting a dog, because that dog does not care what my workday looks like. If she's gotta go, she's going. So it would behoove me to make sure it's outside. So that was a really helpful thing, and actually really helped me get into a rhythm, because I realized that if there are meetings where I just need to touch base and I don't necessarily need to take notes in the same way, being able to do those while walking my dog through my beautiful neighborhood in Pasadena, uh, really actually I thought better, I worked better. And so then when I briefly did a stint in the office prior to the pandemic, I realized this did not work for me anymore. So I think it really does come down to whatever whatever your sort of personality and your work style accommodates. But it is nice to see that I think as we enter, as some of the kids have been calling it, hot vaxxed summer, that a lot of companies are taking seriously that we don't need to necessarily go completely back to the office. We should find what works best for the people who work for us.
Yeah, that looks like freedom. I like that.
Yeah. Um,
Andy, for someone who's worked from home for so long, do you have any piece of advice for someone who is transitioning into work from home and need help with kind of the mental state of working from home versus the office?
I think the most valuable thing is it's so I'm gonna say hygiene, and that's not gonna mean getting up and taking a shower. You obviously you should be doing that, but more practicing the balance of having the space where you work and having the space where if you like the thing, having the space where you work and having the space where you kind of live, and having a little bit of separation. And if you live in a small place, maybe there's just little mental things that you can do to create that separation. So, for example, a little bit of a small. My office is also my bedroom, but to how it is laid out to signal that this is my workspace versus this is where I relax. For example, I've got a very large sun lamp to my right, which not only balances out the light, but just um, keeps me feeling more alert and active. Nighttime, you do not want a sun lamp on because it's just going to wreck. That going off is a signal to me that the workday is ended. Um, Other things is I think respecting that it is natural and necessary to take breaks. Um, for so long, working from home was treated like a luxury, and certainly lots of managers have thought of working from home as a vacation day, and it's well, it's not. It's not time off. Or maybe a little bit harder because I feel the pressure of oh, I'm at home while you're in the office. But again, your legs. Sometimes you're not going to have your best idea while you're sat at your desk. Um, Yourself the same flexibility you would if you worked in an office. You know, and also I think finding ways to stay social, especially with your coworkers. the office is really good for facilitating the sort of non-business related interactions. And so, like, crucial for any organization, I think, is building some time into those weekly or daily, however works for your organization, check-ins, where you're just talking about life the way you normally would before you really get into the day in earnest at an office. I think that's important, just because, like, as humans, we need that social connection, but also, like, to see the people you work with as people. Research has shown that if people feel dehumanized at work, their behavior gets worse, not only to each other but to themselves. And toxicity. Um, so trying to cut that out early and often is, I think, really important.
Nice, thanks.
Yeah. Though I realize that might be a little bit more high level, but something I think about a lot.
No, it's good. That's good. Like where the point where you said for bedroom in my office, but my desk had nothing on the desk but work items like laptop, notepad, sticky notes. Everything else is either on my bed or not on my desk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually it's funny. I think uh, thinking back to like college dorms, it's very much the same
Oh, yeah.
setup, right? Of like the terrible furniture that they give you. It's like, here's your bed and here's your desk. And I feel like people I know who like didn't end up with horrible insomnia were the ones who were like, the desk is where the work happens. I cannot work from my bed.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So yeah, it's kind of funny how we've all been sort of thrust into a more collegiate lifestyle in that way. But yeah, that's so I think 10:25 right now, or I'm gonna go because I know you guys. There's a lot of stuff to catch up with at the conference, and we uh, don't necessarily need to have the world hear every keystroke we do. So if you're in the chat and you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them, and we'll unmute ourselves and answer them. But yeah, and then a little bit later, we'll be playing a little bit of content, one of our demos that we made for Build. But we will hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Magnus Krona and I'm a senior developer at Weavy. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to add the Weavy drop-in UI to a new or existing React application. All the code for this demo is available at github.com/Weavy. You also have this article that you can see in front of you, Getting Started with React and Weavy. It's available on our blog, and that contains all the details. If you want to follow along or test this demo out, you should make sure you have the React development environment up and running. You can go to reactjs.org and follow the tutorial how to set up the React environment. You also need a Weavy instance. So you can either set up a local Weavy instance that you can get from our GitHub site, or you can use a demo instance which is available at showcase.weavycloud.com. So let's get right to it. Here I have Visual Studio Code, and I have created a new React application using the npx create React app, which gives you a basic starter template for creating a React application. The first thing we want to do is to add the Weavy script. So the easiest way to do this is to add it to the index.html file. So here we can see that we have added a script tag which points to our Weavy.js file, and you can also see that it points to showcase weavycloud.com, which was or is our demo instance, and you can use this instance as well. We also have a script tag referencing jQuery, which is a dependency for Weavy. So now that we have added the script tag, let's start by showing what we have here. This is I have created a folder called Weavy where we have added all the necessary stuff that we need. We have a CSS file, we have a couple of components and a context. So what we want to do is we want to reuse the Weavy client instance here when we create new Weavy apps. We don't want to create a new Weavy instance for each app we create. So for that we are using the React context, a React context. So in here you can see that the only thing we do here is create and return a new context. And then we have Weavy.js, which represents the instance of Weavy. As you can see in the constructor, we set an initial state here, and we are using a Weavy variable here and creating a new Weavy. We pass in some options, and the important one here is the JWT. This is how we authenticate. This is how we handle the single sign-on between your application and Weavy. So the JWT is a token that contains user claims such as username, email, name, and so on. It also contains the Weavy authentication client ID, and the token is signed with the Weavy authentication client secret. We also set init to false because we do not want to initialize the Weavy component when we just yet, but when the component mounts, we call this .state.weavy.init. And of course, when the component unmounts, we want to clean up after ourselves, so we call this state.weavy.destroy. And the render method returns a provider, context provider, from the Weavy context, and the value is set to the current state. So we can get access to the Weavy instance in other places in our React application. And we just pass along the children. So now we have a global instance that we can use. Next up is the Weavy app. This component here represents the actual component, the actual app that we want to add to somewhere in your React application. If we take a look down here when the component mounts, first thing we do is we get a reference to the current Weavy instance. We have that on this.context.weavy. And then we call create Weavy app. The create Weavy app, this is responsible for creating the actual app. Before we can create the app, we have to create a space. So you can see the space as a container or a wrapper for one or more apps. A space is needed to create apps. And both the app and the space has a key property. It's a unique key that identifies the space or app. So when the Weavy instance is trying to get the specific space or app, it will either return it, or if it doesn't exist, it will first create it. You can also give the space a name. So when we have the space, we can create the app. We can set the type, and the type of app can be either, for example, Posts app or Files app or Messenger and so on. The different types of apps you can choose from is available at our docs site, docs.weavy.com. You can of course set a name for the app, and the container property is where on your page you want to insert the app. So in this case, we do want to add it to the current element that we are render, and we take a look down here in the render method. We can see that we return a div element, and this is where the app will be inserted. We also have a Weavy container class name. So if we take a look here in the Weavy CSS, we have a Weavy container class which only sets the height to the full viewport height at the moment. But back to the Weavy app, we can see here that we also want to make sure that if the properties change on the component, either the space key or the app key, we need to re-render the app. So here in the should component update, we make sure to return true or false if the app or space have changed. And if it did change, we can see here component did update, we remove the app and recreate it with the new properties. So let's use this component. So if we go to the app here, we can see that first of all, we are wrapping everything with our Weavy context. And in here, we are adding a Weavy app. We have set some properties for the space. And at the moment, we are using a Files app. We want to display a Files app. And the JWT here, we point this to a function that returns a JWT. And in a real app, of course, this would generate a new JWT on the server and return it. In this case, I'm using a predefined long-lived token that is available to use if you use the showcase.weavycloud.com. So it's a predefined token, and this is only for your convenience to get up and running quickly here with the demo, and you don't have to think too much about the authentication bit. So let's run this and see what happens. I'll start, and let's see if the app shows up. And it does. We have our Files app here, with the folder and a note, and you can create new folders. Note, you can add documents from Microsoft Office and Google. You can upload files, local files, or from the cloud, and so on. So the last thing I would like to show you here is that the component is reusable. So I've just prepared some markup here, and we have another app here. You can see the app type here is posts. So let's see how this looks like. Let's make sure the site is updated, and you can see here we have a Files app to the left and a Posts app to the right. And this was pretty much what I wanted to show you here today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.
All right, I'm back. Welcome, Microsoft Build Day 3. Bringing back two of my best buds, people who've been here thick and thin. That's right. We got Matt and Alan.
I apologize for the loud chanting in the
All right,
background.
I'm back. Welcome, Day 3. Bringing it's back good. One of my best buds. Thick and thin.
Someone playing that?
What? Is that you, Matt?
Yeah, I just muted it. Sorry.
All good.
Let me get my headphones now.
That'll be fun for the people at home. No worries. So I think to celebrate this moment, Day 3, I'm gonna ask you, Alan, one of the biggest questions that I sometimes get, which is Alan, who works in the sales team, is his last name really Sales? And the answer is yes and no, right?
It is yes and no. It is spelled sales, but it's pronounced solace, like Sawless. And there's actually a term called there was a term where people's last names gravitate, or people who work in the field of the last name there's a term for it. Let me try to find it. But yes,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
pronounced sales or solace. Sorry, getting myself mixed up now.
It's like if your last name was Baker, you're more inclined to work with bread, which
Yes.
is
So the term I'm looking for is a nominative determinism.
hmm.
It's the hypothesis that people tend to gravitate toward areas of work that fit their names.
Which of course raises the question because historically, at least in a lot of um, Western cultures, uh, if you came from working class background, your last name was often descriptive uh, of your family occupation. So, like for example, the French literally just means weaver. Speaking of Weavy, so or of course, your, baker, tiller, all those things. It was,
Oh yeah.
I'm not fancy enough to have a last name. So when last names became a thing, it's like, what's your last name? Well, I'm a baker. And I guess what goes around comes around.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize what that was until I was, speaking to a potential client, and he sent me this link. It's like, "Do you really work in sales?" I was like, "Yeah, my last name is really sales, but I work in sales." And he sent me this link to, nominative determinism. Interesting. I didn't even know this existed.
It's pretty nuts. Oh, yep. Exciting day at Build. We're building things together. We're collaborating, filling airtime, answering questions. Whose questions? Your questions. Just gotta get weavy.com/events/chat. Or I will not give you the URL for that because, you know what? Why not? youtube.com/video/K47KE8-I-DS. There you go. There you have it. If you can remember that, type it in.
I thought there was an easier link until you said that, and that caught me.
tu.be/K47KE8-I-DS. That's the easier version.
We should give Amazon gift card for $25 if anyone could, just with that.
We'd have to prove it. We need proof that you did not know until you heard me say it out loud.
True.
Are these URLs case sensitive? I don't know. I'm about to find out.
Might have to.
They um they are case sensitive.
Interesting.
Which means I would actually have to say utu-be /K47 E 8 dash lowercase I dash capital D lowercase s. If you can enter that
Confusing.
into your bar, you followed along and did that,
Good luck.
we will not give you an Amazon gift card. That's the pun budget. My pun budget has been dramatically slashed.
I feel like we need.
Well, wouldn't that be? I'm trying to be careful with what I say because I cannot go over budget on this. So my natural inclinations could get me into some trouble. Check on the Microsoft Build hashtag. What's going on for MS Build Day 3?
What is?
Apparently, .NET 6 now has something called has the minimal web API. You can say hello world in only 3 lines of code, which for developers, obviously, this goes without saying, but like one of the classic first things you have to course is create a little program that can just display the message "Hello World." I got about that far in my Introduction to Computer Sciences course at NYU. Because I realized I'm not good at developing things, personally. Learned that the hard way. Dropped that course.
That's crazy how you brought up Hello World, because I just clicked this world and I was like,
Yeah.
huh?
Well,
Sorry, my dog is.
I can't even hear it.
Yeah, neither can I.
Yeah. Hello World, historically, basically, the initial, it was in the first, programming in C tutorial, put out by Bell Laboratories in 1978, as a way to test it. Hilariously enough, the program initially was handwritten as an instruction that you would type in just to demonstrate that, hey, this is the most basic thing you can do in C is make your computer show the message, hello world. It actually, traditionally, it will do two things. It'll show hello world on the terminal, and variants will also print out a paper that says the same. Um, uh, there is when learning a new programming language called time to hello world, which is the time it would take in any programming language to author a hello world program. And that's how you measure ease of use. So therefore, Microsoft's or the .NET version 6 API doing hello world in 3 lines shows that your time to hello world is very short indeed.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Fun
They
fact,
just came out
nerds.
with that?
.NET 6, I think it's still in preview. I actually, since I'm not on the as much about the various versions of .NET, I know that Weavy is built on .NET MVs to migrate to .NET Core in the future. .NET Core is the more recent version that owes to Weavy's origins. In our earliest days, before we were Weavy, we were going to be an extension for Microsoft Dynamics Connect. And the developer community really got excited about the work that was being done by our founding team. And so they realized that, this we could get this working in a lot more space Connect. And that was sort of the root, the birth of Weavy as it exists today as an API and SDK. Prior to that, our team, their background had been in developing collaboration apps, not dissimilar to something like Slack, but they were just a little bit ahead of the curve on that. Sort of the same story. Weavy launched a little bit before the market and truly the global pandemic had validated the need contextual collaboration in apps. I'm going to circle back because if you're just joining us or haven't watched in previous days, at Weavy we talk contextual collaboration, and it's been really fun to see contextual collaboration and just context in general coming up a lot at some of these presentations at Build. The way I like to explain contextual collaboration is that Collaboration traditionally on an online setting is usually relegated to a standalone app, like something like Slack, where all of our interoffice communications are having each other files and links, but that requires us to be referencing something. So, Matt, if you're sending me a HubSpot contact and asking me, hey, is this somebody we should reach out to, even though they're still in an inbound nurture flow, I would have to go to that link and look through their activity log and say yes or no. And if you send me a bunch of those, then I've got to sort of keep in my mind like which one I'm looking at and sort of say, okay, yes, for this link, yes, for that link, no, for this link, yes. Whereas
and you're going back and forth between the applications.
I'm spending a lot of time, and I'm also having to make sure that I'm referencing the right person.
Yep.
Whereas the contextual example would be, in a CRM like HubSpot, like Salesforce. Instead, Matt would be on that contact page. He would open a chat window, and he would tag me. Think about this person, and I would see that. I would be taken immediately to that contact page. I could look at the information, and without ever having to leave, I could just type yes or no right there.
Yep.
He knows exactly who I'm talking about, and we've got a record of that. So, say a few weeks later, someone's like, wait, why did we pull this person out of the nurture flow for an outbound contact? We've got the receipt right there of like, well, here's what happened. I don't have to scroll back through just a huge litany of messages to try to find that one interaction. It's just, it lives where the work lives.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
And speaking on that, not just like a user profile or a customer, specific identifier, like it could even be a point on a graph or on a dashboard. You can, contextually collaborate in that sense. So, very powerful. It gives you a lot of good insight. So
yeah, that's a really good point. Say as a marketing professional as I am, I have just delivered a report on the various traffic sources. Our direct referral, paid social, free organic social, et cetera, et cetera. Say one of the data points for a certain week just is a huge spike, just a total aberration. My boss could click on that data point, open a little chat message, and be like, can you give me some insight as to what happened there? Like, what could be the cause?
exactly.
And then, that could be something like as simple as like, oh, that was an aberration, or I could go, and here's where things get like really cool. Like, say I've got like, I'm just gonna make up a random example. Like, we had a Twitter post that like went viral, so I could I could put that link in the chat. But also, the data point one is maybe this is a very poor example of that. But say there was a document I had that like really best explained this, I could send that to them, and like that we've shared a file, and it is completely relevant just to this data point, and it's not muddying our general conversation that we're having about like our normal work day. It lives there. It is a happy, nice place.
Users can have opportunity to have a conversation right then and there within the platform, bounce back, so they can just refer to it easily. I think that's, really like that about Weavy.
Yeah, most definitely. And since we're on the topic of contextual collaboration, an example I like to bring about is maybe for HR or human capital management. Let's say there's a candidate, right? And you have four different hiring managers interviewing that one candidate. All the managers can have a contextual conversation on the candidate's profile page. So that way they don't have to jump to Slack or email to talk about that one candidate. They can create tasks also within that candidate So everything is brought to the context of just that one person, rather than a whole entire pool of all the candidates.
Absolutely. And say that candidate sent the their reference file, like the PDF, just to one person. That person can put that in the chat and share it.
Yeah, exactly. And so they all have access to it without having to go to the email. Like, oh, where was this file saved again? It's all there.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think.
think. I don't think I have to tell anybody about the struggle of saying, "Hey, I sent you the thing. Okay, where should you send it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it again?
Could you just do it again?"
I mean, I think
Right.
ultimately it comes down when we're trying to enable apps to add our contextual, their end users can stay within an app and work together around something specific rather than having to jump around different platforms just to communicate about one thing. I think, that's something I took away from our CMO, Lydia, and her interview. Um, I believe it was with a gentleman, I have forgotten his
Oh,
name, but
Brad Hawks over at Pickett, the
yes, it
VP
was
of
it was a great
marketing.
interview. If you haven't watched it,
It's
you
on our
know,
site,
yes,
futureofwork.weavy.com.
it's a really great interview, and they talk about the importance of collaboration and the direction that it's going in. But totally agree with Lydia on that one, and I think that hits the spot really well.
Yeah, and that's actually Pickett, which is a digital asset management service that we at Weavy actually use to just as a way to make sure that all of our files are in one place and that we're staying on top of it there. One of the nice things about that is that around any photograph, any graphical asset, what have you, I can really easily open up a chat and tag somebody in it, and it just lives there. And it's it's the kind of thing that you see it in little fits and starts everywhere. If
Hmm.
you've ever, if you're a G Suite user, you know about the chat function on like a Google Doc or like a slide deck. Um, but there's so much more that can be done, and just with a little bit of just getting our code implemented, uh, it is unbelievable how quickly you can get some of these features deployed within an app and get your end users. Pardon me, I just became a man. And get your end users to collaborate contextually. Um, One of our use cases that's presently up on the site, you can find it actually on our feature partner portal. We One of our clients, Lobby CRE, I think they in less than 2 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's incredibly exciting. We've got another use case coming down the pipeline, and the feedback was very similar there too. Of you know, guys, and to the technical team, just ready to answer questions at a moment's notice. Much uh, or slash chat. We're there to answer their questions and smooth over any problems in the process, uh, of which there were very few. Um, so yeah, it has been nice that we are not the only people discussing this. I think it becomes much more important the more that hybrid work takes root, and I think becomes the norm, especially in enterprise. Um, Obviously, hybrid work is never going to take food services by storm in the way it does tech, but
Sure.
yeah. So once again, if you're if you're on Weavy YouTube stream, I'm not to read the URL out again. It's case sensitive, and you're in the right place already. So instead, how about you ask us a question, or tag us on Twitter. I seeing the little bell icon have numbers next to it. Spend a lot of time on the Weavy Twitter account. We, as you can see, we love to talk. We love to chat. All right. Very potentially. Don't give too much away, but there's a lot we want to do. Just talking about, we really love our developer community. We really love engaging our developer community. Shout outs to our community team, Chris and Ayush, who are doing the hard work right now of fulfilling people's virtual swag orders. If you go to our partner portal, to our virtual swag bag, where we're giving away a 90-day, all features included trial of Weavy. That means if you're feeling crazy, you could get Weavy fully deployed in your app in 2 weeks, and then still have enough fast math 10 weeks to see what you like, and see how it's working for your use. Fall in love with it, and you will fall in love with it.
You will.
You can talk to Dave, Vard, Joseph about what is the right pricing model for you, features in your ecosystem, and keep your end users happy. And then, of course, the other promotion I do want to mention really quickly before we talk about pricing is our we've got a really cool custom design that sort of blends the design language of Weavy with the design language of this year's Microsoft Build competition or conference. It's been a week, guys. So if you click any and then we send you an email asking you for your address and your shirt size, and that's that. And Chris, get to work and making sure that you get your cut t-shirt.
Chris, Ayush, if you guys are watching right now, please send one my way. Thank you.
Please, what size?
Large.
Yeah, I respect that. That
The
we're large.
pandemic and the COVID.
No shame. We are. Weavy is a body positive organization.
See, feel it, so gonna sit down, get that exercise, or not exercise, but at least
Blood flowing.
Yep.
Every
Yes.
bit counts.
Yeah, my previous to 14 hours a day, so it was like about 15 steps a day. So it's good exercise. I mean, 4 days out of the 7 days.
Great. Really quick, going back on, say somebody does, and people have been taking us up on our free trial, our 90-day free trial. When they get to the end of those 90 days, what kind of pricing might they be looking at?
Well, our pricing structure.
Yeah.
So,
You wanna?
yeah, I can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Sure.
You can still buy up to a license feature. You could buy it as a suite. Pretty simple, straightforward. Out of the 4 features, if you want me going to $12.99 a month, activity feeds also also is $12.99. Secure file sharing documentation is $12.99 as well. And then features in total is $299. So, optional on services which we can help you with. And those are the things we would need to discuss going forward.
I subscribe to all the features, and does how how many user seats do I get for those chats?
It's unlimited.
Get right out of town.
We don't get charged, so we don't charge per use. That's a steal right there.
Because you can scale at your own pace.
Yeah.
So.
That is a huge topic that I discussed with a lot of folks. I used to contract in the software as a service space before I became a full-time in-house at Weavy. And one of the big sort of like conversations that would always happen around so-called freemium models and even like sort of affordable subscription models is designed to be free, and they really weren't designed to be low cost. They were designed to be glorified trials because, oh wow, this I can only have 5 users, but I've got a 6-user organization, or I've got this app and like I've got an install base of like, we need to be able to send 300 messages in a week, but we are rate limited to 200 a week. Congratulations, welcome to the upsell. That's the real story. A lot of subscription models and premium models are intentionally priced in such a way where they have the analytics. They know what the average user needs, and they keep that lowest tier just a little bit below what the average user needs, so that the median user is getting an upsell. We don't believe in that over here at Weavy. Weavy was built by developers for developers. We love our community because we're part of it, and so we don't want to play any dirty tricks on folks.
Right.
And I genuinely like this is not me being a sales. We have had hard conversations about this, and we always come back to no, we value our developer community too much to go back on this. It is an ethos.
Yeah, definitely agree. And then just going back on pricing, as you said, we do have a subscription model where it's month to month, and the kind of cool thing is that you can always cancel at any time. So just wanted to subscriptions per our features, so you have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, that reminds me. There is a huge a whole Twitter trend topic for a day was around somebody who was trying to cancel their Adobe Creative Suite, only to find out that, and in fact, they got sent a bill for the rest of the year because they were on an annual that paid month to month. We don't like to do that shell game here.
Yeah, we really make sure that the pricing is good on both parts, so that everything works out smoothly.
Yeah, and if there are any questions about pricing, clarify.
Yeah.
Anything to better about.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the some of the last century.
Yeah.
circling around, but we want to stick. Uh, now that the conference has sort of like
Wrapping up.
taken a bow, this is your shot to drop by our virtual booth. We'll still be here. To answer your question, I'm gonna throw us on mute, and I might also grab myself a glass of water because I'm getting a little raspy. So. Just chiming in with a question from our internal chat, which is Matt frozen on purpose? Or is he just perfectly still? I've never met Matt in person. I cannot rule out that he might be a staring
Staring
champ at
contest with
this rate.
Matt.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Staring contest.
All right. Nope, I'm out. Can't do it.
I think Matt's the staring contest champ right now.
He's the people's champ. Truly, the John Cena of staring contests. But it's given me an appreciation for his lighting setup. That's for sure. He's like high key. At I would say like 45-degree angle from his face. Actually, no, like a 90. That's a 45-degree angle. And then he's got a really gentle fill, and I don't know if that's a bounce card or he does just have a fill light, and that seems to be at like the 90-degree mark. So it creates a very dynamic presentation.
Where do you guys? Is he still here?
I'm gonna bring on Sean to see what he thinks on the "Is Matt frozen on purpose" discourse.
Yeah, that's just it. I agree with you on the lighting. It definitely looks well composed and well arranged.
Yeah.
And and he's on there, and he's in the chat. Did you see that? But
Oh yeah.
I have met Matt in person, and I think it's totally believable that this is still an orchestration.
That's true. That he still.
It's just a special talent that he brought on board.
Yeah.
That's a funny picture, though.
It was a good one.
We're gonna keep him up there. Normally when someone gets frozen like that, I take him off, but I'm keeping this one.
Yeah, it's a win.
Yeah. So if you've got any questions for the team about Weavy or about lighting, that's I can also speak to that. Clearly, though, not as well as Matt. He really nailed the. All right, we're gonna go back on mute. You know where to ask us questions. So Matt, the world needs to know, how good are you at staring contests?
I'm actually pretty good.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, something I pride myself on.
That's good. I'm awful at them. Truly
Yeah,
awful.
for some reason my eyes get watery really fast.
Yeah.
Well, I have contacts and I dry out super fast.
Hmm.
I don't know why I was frozen like
I
that.
think you dropped out of the call. I think it just takes like the last frame, but I hadn't noticed you dropped out.
That's weird. Oh
It's
well.
actually pretty funny though. You were like staring, and me and Andy had a staring contest with you.
Yeah.
We both
Didn't hold up.
At least I wasn't like this or something.
Yep.
No, at first Andy thought you were just staying really still. And I thought so too. And then we're like, maybe he's not staying still. He's actually frozen.
He's certainly not responding. We know how to get you to break up a little bit more easily than
I actually was there the whole time. I just was trying to work on my skills. And it worked.
Yeah.
See, look.
Your headphones are moving though. It's pretty good.
This is startling.
Kudos. My eyes are getting dry looking at him.
Yeah, okay. It's starting to weird. He's
Dude,
got it for. Oh,
I
okay.
longer. Oh my god. Oh. I'm gonna contact solution real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who you consulted for the light?
It's pretty good. I'm frozen.
I really towards the end there, I thought, oh no, he's found a way to just pause the image.
Option to pause your video.
That'd be wild.
That would be pretty crazy.
That would be crazier than my creature that we all enjoyed using until I realized it broke the streams.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been a great build, and I think it's been a good time. We stayed on a little bit past when Microsoft decided to go to bed, and so I think to close us out, I'm gonna play the session by our CEO Rickard Hansen. It's a special treat for those of you who've tuned in. I'm gonna stall for time while I get it queued up. If you if you had a moment, I want to thank you for dropping in. It meant the world. Even if you didn't leave messages, spending time with us, it means something to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, from myself and the Weavy team that is not on, I want to say have a great Memorial Day weekend if you live in the States, and have a great normal weekend if you don't. And you guys, any parting words before we throw to Rickard?
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Just thank you. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and then just continue to stay safe, everybody.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks once again for tuning in. Either today, just that, and hopefully next time we see you guys will be in person. You never
Yes.
know. Um, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to sentiment, stay safe. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hopefully, maybe Build 22 will be in person.
Yes,
Fingers crossed.
hopefully.
All right. And that's
Hi guys, Carl Hansen here, CEO and founder of Weavy. Today's topic is going to be about in-app collaboration, using our SDK and API to do so. And to illustrate that, we created a demo app using Telerik's UI library for Blazor, combined with our SDK and API and all the features we have. Let's start though to talk about what Weavy is and the concepts and the fundamentals. We understand that when we're starting embedding Weavy into your app. Okay? So Weavy is an in-app collaboration SDK and API. And the reason we exist is that we think that your app is where work actually happens. We want to bring the collaboration experience into your app so your users can do more of the work without leaving your app, okay? And we do that through a couple of key features, starting with in-app messaging, so instant messaging. You have all the things you expect, like group chats, one-to-one chats. You have things you can listen to, like from a programmatic point of view, for typing indicators, presence indicators, read and deliver receipts and all that stuff. And you can attach files. We have a really rich file preview throughout all our features. I'm going to show you that later. The next feature we have, activity feeds, aka like the LinkedIn or Facebook feed, right? And again, like everything you expect, posts, comments, likes, you have polls, you have emoticons, you can attach files, there's everything you can expect, right, from a feed functionality. And the third feature we have is the file sharing component. Which literally means you can, within your app, create like a Dropbox copy. It's that powerful. You can share files, you can remote editing files, you have version handling, version control. You have, again, the file preview. You can do collaboration and comments. And we also do have integrations to Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, OneDrive, all in one place. The concept and the fundamentals of Weavy. We're going to talk about these three. User directories, spaces, and apps. We need to understand them so we know how things are kind of hooked together. User directories exist, simply because of multi-tenancy, right? So you probably have a key in your system lumping these users together and these users together and these users together. Weavy has the exact same thing, so you can lump, users together so they can collaborate and communicate within their directories. A user only, always associated with one directory and one directory only. But it still allows you for cross communication between directories. We're going to tell you how that actually works. Another key component or fundamentals are spaces. So spaces, we say, usually is something you attach to a view or an object within your app. So let's say you're an ERP developer. So you have an invoice in your app. That's the object. So we want to attach our workspace in Weavy, right, to that object, the invoice. And the space can have one or more members. And this is where the cross communication comes in, because you can actually invite members from different directories. And since they're in the same space, they are allowed to communicate with each other until they're not, because you can add and remove all the users programmatically in real time. But so that's how you can actually have a vendor A and vendor B, for some reason, collaborate around this, one invoice, for example. In one space also, you add one or more apps. And apps are our building blocks, like I mentioned before, the messaging, the feeds, and the file sharing. So these apps lives in a space that is attached to your object, right? The invoice has a space. And then what do we want to do about the invoice? Okay, we want to talk. So let's attach feeds. I want to be able to attach, even more files. Okay, we attach the file sharing piece. I want to do comments. Okay, we attach the comment app, so to speak, into the app, into the space. So you can add one or more apps, and they can be the same apps. So you can have several files apps. You can have several post apps for different reasons. Because let's say in your app, you have different, obviously, permission levels. Like, so when I look at this invoice, I have different permissions what I can do. And these apps you can embed into your app through two concepts within Weavy, the drop-in UI or doing through APIs. And that's actually brings us how to actually we're adding it from a practicality point. And the drop-in UI is literally what it sounds like. It's a pre-built UI. You just, a couple of lines of code and you have the feeds, file sharing, and messaging within your app. And obviously you can style it. It's going to look like yours. It's not going to look like Weavy. And that is primarily what our users are doing today. You can also use our REST API and go straight to the engine and use all the functionality we have there, and then obviously render your own UI, whatever that built in. In our demo here, right, we're going to do Blazor. These endpoints we have, there's a couple already in the Weavy instance, right? They are customizable. So you can take the existing endpoints and do more or less. You can build completely new endpoints. And this is great because usually when you do these API calls, there's more than one thing happening, right? So you don't want to do several REST API calls because that's very consuming. In this case, you can actually do very advanced endpoints that does a lot at the same time. In that way, you will increase performance and all that good stuff. Everything we're talking about here now today is you can find on the developer portal, both in general getting started with Weavy, but particularly this session we're talking about this demo, you can find on our developer portal on our website. Just go there. And now we're going to head into the actual demo, right? So we built a simple demo app using Telerik UI library for Blazor. We built it, to showcase Weavy's both ways of embedding the features. We both built for using our REST API, and then obviously we used the drop-in UI as well. So let's head into the demo and do some coding. Let's start looking at the app before we get into the actual code. So I'm going to switch over here to Visual Studio Code and start the actual app. It's going to build. And here we have it. So this first, right? When it comes to users, so these we just hard-coded a couple of users for demo purposes. These users are in the Blazor app, in this case, or in your case, it would be your app. So we're logging them into the Blazor app. And then what connects that user to Weavy and the users in the Weavy and directories, as I mentioned before, right, is JTT tokens are created for connecting those. So they are, created on the fly. We're not going to dive into that specifically right now, but so that happens. Let's go in here now and click. I'm going to be Oliver for this. So we're authenticating Oliver. And voila, now we're in this beautiful web app, right? Welcome, Oliver, our latest poll. For whatever reason, we're talking about favorite sports. That's the dashboard. And then we have this little navigation here, right? We can see actually here's a badge with notifications. We have a chat. And as I said, we're going to talk about the API and the drop-in UI. And the chat we have here, the messaging piece, is the API approach. So here we actually built a chat based on some of the Telerik UI library components, the list view, some autocomplete and stuff like that. And then, for example, if we go into the files, that is using our drop-in UI, and I'm going to show you how that works as well. But here you get kind of a glimpse of it. But let's dive into the back end, so to speak, right? So let's go back into Visual Studio Code. And here we have the project, all the different files. As I said, in this case, you have to point to Weavy. This is prepped for a demo called Showcase. For the API endpoint, right, to set that in the app settings, JSON, you can see here's the URL pointing to Showcase. If you want to change that to your own Weavy instance, if you have it on your local host or whatever, that's where you change it for the API endpoints. Later on, we're going to talk about the drop-in UI. And as I mentioned, right, the chat is a complete API approach. So here's the chat Razor file. And it has all the normal stuff. There's Telerik splitter to create the kind of layout. And then we have the iteration of the conversations that are open. And then all the different, modal windows and whatnot. And the interesting part here is, right, everything here is happening through a C# file we created here called chat service. So the chat service is actually where everything is getting routed through, right? To get the messages and to post a message and get users and all that good stuff. So here you can see all the API points being used. Okay, here's for example, we are getting messages. This is in conversation with a specific ID that is returned and so on and so forth. All right. So that is used all through the chat service. You can play around in there. in the same service, we can also see that we're listening to things. Like we need to know when a message comes in so we can real time show that. We can see that here. Like we have, for example, here public void, the dispose, real time on message, real time on typing. So we have the typing indicator. We're not really doing anything right now to show that in the UI. We're actually just throwing that into the console. But obviously the message we do. So if we want to go to that definition, we see here handle message, we are doing a console write, and then we load that conversation through that chat service I just showed you. And then we for a state has changed. And here you can see actually the handle typing, console write, we just do console writing. And if you want to do that, you can add something, you know, dots or whatnot, showing that someone is actually writing. And as I said, like, you know, this real-time component is also affecting the navigation, or is a part of navigation as well. So if I go to the nav menu file here, we can see that we have the chat and we have a badge, and we also have notification with a badge. And you can see that it has those handlers on here. So here we are connecting to real-time listeners here as well. So there's a badge, you know, change through the chat service again, right? We're listening to a get badge change. So if there's like a new notification or new conversation coming in, boom, it triggers. Okay, so we can actually show that as well. Like, so if we go back to the chat, I can, you know, I can go in here to this one conversation. I'm going to pick up my phone because I have it on my phone as well. So I can go to this particular conversation and say, hi there. And you can see now, boom, it actually happened here, hi there. And you can obviously reply to that as well, blah, 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 send that away. So everything is happening in real time. And even the badges, right? So if I actually click, you know, into notifications here, you can see now chat is empty. But I'll send another message here, just blah, blah, blah. And now, boom, you can see the notification badge highlighted there, okay? And now it's actually also bolded here, so you can see it's on red, and then I can go into that conversation. Very cool. But this is very simple, right? So it's only like you can create a new conversation. You can see now here, these users here are in that, you know, user directories I mentioned before. These are the users in a particular directory. So I can, you know, send in a message to Samara, Adam, and Lily, for example, if I want to do a group conversation, create that conversation, and off we go. But this is very simple. There's no attached files or anything because it's just like, you know, using the UI components and towards the API. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is the drop-in UI, as I mentioned, and going back to, for example, files here. So here is two UI components we see. We see the post and we see the file sharing component. And then we use Telerik just to have like this splitter, so you can see it's responsive. And here is, as I mentioned, the drop-in UI here is very simple, right? It just works out of the box. You don't have to think about real time or anything like that. So again, if I pick up my phone and go to this particular feed we see here, and I add a new comment, for example, or add a new post, hey there, and post that, you can see that automatically real time comes up. Boom, don't have to do anything more. And how this works, if we go into the actual files here, it's super straightforward because we created a component called Weavy for Blazor, right? And then another, you know, component called Weavy app. So the Weavy is the head client SDK. And before I forget that, in the host, there is actually where when it comes to the drop-in UI, you refer to the client SDK who makes all the drop-in UI, you know, wonder work. So this is the URL, and again, if you're going to do, you know, through localhost or something like that, that's what you have to change. But so this is the client SDK. Back to the files. So here we have created a Blazor component, right? A Weavy app, and then here you have the concept we talked about earlier, right? Space and apps and whatnot. So when you fire up a Weavy app, you have to define a space key, and that's a unique identifier. And then you throw in a app key, which is the name of the actual app, which can be anything. And then what type it is. So type is post is feeds, and type files is obviously files, right? So this is what's combining Telerik Blazor UI, and in that specific space now, we're adding two apps, files posts and files. And these components, right, you find under here under shared, You have the Weavy Racer, which is literally just firing up the Weavy client SDK, as you can see here. And then the Weavy App Racer is just a wrapper around the fact with the key, attributes, a key, and stuff like that. And then you can see it automatically renders a div tag in this case. Like if you want to render something else, be more detailed, you can do that. But in this particular demo, it renders a div tag. So that's pretty cool. And as I said, like, you can do rich file previews anywhere, again, without adding any specific code. So let's just, take a PDF here from my desktop, drag it into a post, say, check this out, and post that. Now you can see here now, okay, whoa, here's a PDF. But clicking that, automatically an overlay is created, and you can preview the PDF without downloading it. And you don't have to do anything specific for that to happen. Same with the notes or the files here. This is the files app we were talking about, right? So here I can create notes, folders, Office documents. So let's say I want to create a Word document, new doc. And as you can see here, we're just creating like an empty Word document. I can click it, I can see it's empty. But here with the remote editing technology we have, I can fire up Word and then I can do my edits, remote into this without downloading, uploading. So here I go in and let's, do some edits. Doesn't have to be anything fancy schmancy. And then save. And then going back to the app, right? Clicking new doc, we can now see it's updated with what we just created. And you have versions and all that good stuff. And here's comments, so I can actually do @Ricard, need this from you. So we can actually collaborate around this particular file right now. And here we also have support for, Google Drive, and Dropbox and Box and Google OneDrive as well. You can create files in Google Drive. If you click here, you can actually attach files. So here I can attach a file from Google Drive, if that's what I want to do. And let's just pick a test, select. And now you can see this is added, but with a little bit of a different icon. And by clicking it here as well, you can actually see that we can preview the Google Docs in here as well. So since Google Docs allows that, we can do that. If I want to do edits, I just click here and I go to the Google Docs in Google Docs, so I can do all the editing. So that is the drop-in UI, right? How you just push those things in. The styling here, you can see, you can just CSS that as you want. And then continue to talk about the actual space concept, right? In terms of like you can be on very detailed level. So now here's the Files app, right? But on the profile, for example, we just added, for Oliver that is logged in now, Oliver's files. So he can have his own files. You can use the file sharing app for that. And you can also create like on a detail level. So here I just created a chart, right? So I can ask, let's talk about 2008. And by clicking 2008, we load a specific post app right now and say, Ricard, need to talk about 2008 and post that. And when I click back 2005, obviously, that is empty. Going back to 2008, we can now see, that is still here, and we can continue the conversation. So what happens here is like literally what I've done here is like each click here, clicking 2005, creates a space in Weavy that is, uniquely attached to that particular chart point. And then in that space, I attach the post app. So if you think, further now, you can see, okay, I can attach, files apps and tasks apps into that space. And that all is then attached to 2005 in this case. So you can use like, that concept of space on a very detailed level, not just on a view level, like the whole thing, but in this case, it can actually be a data point, for example. And you can find this particular chart as well. You can see it here. It's just like, a dummy render of a chart. And then you have the Weavy app here. And this is automatically handled. Like, so you can see here that the key is, defined down here, the post key. And then on the click, when I click on something on the chart, you can see we update the post key with, an ID, post apps category ID. So post apps plus 2008 then. And as soon as that changes, the post key, this app is automatically reloaded, right? So when I click, we update the post key like here, and then the post apps is automatically reloaded with the new one from 2004. So very cool and very interesting. As I mentioned, everything you see here in our demo you can find on our developer portal on GitHub. Just search for Weavy and you can find this Telerik Blazor project and just go and play around and have fun. Okay, thank you guys.